Welcome everyone to yet another Dragon Legend reading stream where we will come back to one of the books or more precisely one of the texts that we will be reading for some time. I am as always your faithful Saint Dominic, the Saner Necromancer of the Dragon Legion, which wants you to learn about some new fun role-playing games, because that way everything can be more fun for everyone in the whole entire world. Today we will continue with 7th Sea, which is a role-playing game of being pirates and swashbuckling and espionage and all the fun stuff that could be connected with the 17th century in the made-up world that looks like Europe but has different names because it's more fun that way. Today we will continue where we left off, and where we left off was magic. And without further ado, let us go with another chapter. I already had me press gang this month. The Vendel and the Vessenmanvair practice the art of lairdom, the study of true names. Those who perform it are called Skeren, the rune carvers, and they know the 24 holy words spoken by their tribal ancestors who became gods. Each represents the god who first carved it, and now their power can be tapped into by carving the lairds, the runes. Runes are written, carved onto objects, or inscribed on living flesh. Just speaking the word is not enough, it must be made real in this world and invoked in a specific ritual. So we are introduced to first kind of magic, which is based on runes and the names of things, because when we put the names of those things into the existence, then we can tap into their true power. The apprentices, the discoverers of secrets, know how to invoke a rune. They can write it to tap into its power, but it's not safe necessarily. This is the raw power of the world, a live wire which you are dipping into. Most who do this use paper and ink, but any temporary writing will do. Adepts, the words of secrets, know the deeper secrets and can inscribe a rune onto an object. Its power will hold for 1 year and then the rune must be rededicated. Conventional wisdom is that the best day to do this is the day they were first inscribed, which will provide the most power, even perhaps allowing contact with the gods. The masters know the heart of secrets, the great wisdom. They can summon the power of Laird into themselves, and they can perceive the living myth Valhalla vaguely but there. They can faintly hear the chanting of the ancestors. This has no mechanical effect, but GMs are encouraged to occasionally allow them to receive advice from the ancestors. They are able to carve a single rune into their flesh and become it. Invoking a rune takes 1 action because it's temporary. Inscribing one as an object takes 5 actions and isn't doable in combat. An inscribed item receives a name and can receive no other. Anyone holding the item, even a non-sorcerer, can say the name to become affected by its rune for 1 round, plus 1 more for each raise made in the inscribing. No roll is needed for this. Becoming a rune is permanently carving it into your body, taking 10 actions and a red hot iron brand. This is definitely not possible in combat. This does hurt you, but after that the rune can never be destroyed without killing you. Doesn't count towards the limits of rune you can have affecting you. It's always on and never needs to be maintained. There are also weather runes, which are different. The radius they affect goes up with rank. 1 square mile for apprentice, 3 for adept, and 10 for master. They last an hour for apprentice, a day for adept, and a week for master, assuming no other sorcerer goes in to change it. The GM controls the practical effects of the weather. You can't aim an earthquake to kill a specific person without raises assigned by the GM. Invoking a weather rune must be done out of doors. An inscribed weather rune is good for one use, and becoming one lets you use its power at will. Whenever you fail at using a rune knack, you take 1 die of damage for every 5 points you failed by, rounding up. You can control a number of active runes equal to your ranks in Brawn at once, though you can make raises to do more. If you ever fail a Lardrum roll while using more runes, then you can normally control all runes immediately end, and you take 1 die of damage per active rune as the power explodes on you. You can only try to invoke up to wits times per day. Runes can be inscribed only onto you or an inanimate object. Any object can only ever have one rune inscribed. Even after the spell's power ends, that's the one rune that object will take. You can maintain up to Brawn inscriptions. If you go over that, all runes active fail and ruin the objects they are on. They may never be inscribed again. An inscribed rune can only be activated a number of times per day equal to the maker's wits, and you can only ever become one rune. And now let us go into the runes. We have the rune of flesh. The first rune is that of self. Its lesson is this: know yourself. That is the first lesson, the first truth. It demands honesty with the self, and the god who is Kyot was the most hermetic of the gods ever. He never spoke to anyone but empathy after he solved the riddle of flesh. Kyot adds 2 dice to any attempts to resisting being fooled or beguiled by magic or not. The rune of empathy. The second rune is the outer world, where other moves and meld in a cohesive yet chaotic whole. Empathy is the union of the self and the outer world, and it is said that the goddess who is Bvegelze taught Flesh to understand himself, which made her the stronger of the two. However, Solitude claimed that the second would never survive without the first. Bvegelze adds 2 dice to any social interaction. The Rune of Omen. The third rune is that of the messenger of the gods, the trickster. Omen has been blamed for being unfair, making his omens too difficult, but he disagrees, claiming that only those willing to listen are worthy to hear. When invoked or inscribed, Omen allows the user to make a skill check to speak in secret, making all present who he wishes to deceive hear only gibberish unless they are using the flesh rune. Those who become Omen do not need to roll and may use the ability at will. The Rune of Solitude. The fourth rune cuts away the past, the anchor that keeps you from moving forwards. It allows you to move past fears and angers to concentrate on the present. This is the duty of the true hero who understands that the future waits for no one. Solitude was the first to accept his gift, the first to use it, and the first to fall saving his home. Solitude adds 2 dice to all resolve checks. The Rune of Strength. The fifth rune challenges Flesh for supremacy of the body. He was a warrior, both in mind and body, with the soul of a demon and the power of the greatest oaks. His courage is remembered across Vendel, inspiring the modern sport of caber tossing from the legend of how he uprooted the tallest tree in the world as a challenge to Legion itself. He drew a line between this world and the demons it had embraced, and his conviction is today shared by many Vesenmanavair. Strength adds 1 die to all damage rolls. The Rune of Mystery. The sixth rune hides the truth. What was clear is concealed, what was known forgotten. Under the influence of mystery, deceit and lies go unnoticed and veiled, even from the gateway rune. Many say that those who carved mystery become less and less themselves, and all who have become the mystery rune have permanently cut ties with all they know to devote their lives to scholarly work and puzzles. Mystery adds 2 dice to all rolls to deceive others and counteracts the gateway rune. The Rune of Calm. The 7 rune is also called Sorrow. For the sailor, no tragedy is greater than a stilled sea. When used, the wind dies and the air is quiet. Doom comes to the sea. The god Calm observed the moment of silent revelation after Legion was hurled back to the abyss at the end of the war for Vendel, and has observed the same silence between each age since. When a Skieren learns Calm, he chooses either the weather or emotional focus. This choice can never be changed. As a weather effect, Calm steals the weather conditions. Gales die into breezes, blizzards turn to light snowstorms. Weather conditions can only be lessened, not changed into another type of weather. As an emotional effect, Calm adds 2 dice to all rolls to calm another's mood or curb aggressive emotions. The Rune of Greatness. Greatness is the fledgling hero, the young and untrained prodigy. It is encouragement to others to be like itself, reflecting the best in all it meets. The first person to be greatest was a squire to Stirk. Seemingly weak and in need of protection, he was the most valiant of all the gods and never wavered through the war's days, proving to be an example of all they fought for. When invoked or inscribed, greatness allows any raises made of an action that is successful to be distributed among those who observe the action as the Skiavern wishes, acting as free raises for the targets. The Skiaren can transform a number of raises per action equal to his lowest attribute. One who becomes greatest gets a pool of free raises equal to his lowest rate at the start of each scene, which he may use or distribute as he wishes during the scene. Any that are not used by the end of the scene are lost. The Rune of Skill. The legends say that Skill was the stout, clear-headed mentor of the gods that saved the world. He knew that victory could not be rushed, the valor could not be hurried. He taught the values of patience and the proper moment, and then showed all the gods what triumph meant. His rune is one of adroitness and instruction. Skill allows 1 die per combat round to be re-rolled. The Rune of Wholeness. There is a Western Manavir saying attributed to wholeness. Understanding one's weakness is more important than knowing those of your foes. Wholeness was the warlord who never fell, a master of defensive combat. Most of his battles were won by attrition and tiring his foe out, and he was one of the greatest friends of Gidget. Those who use his rune are blessed with uncanny ability to avoid blows. Wholeness gives +5 to the difficulty to hit the Skjern. The Rune of Wealth. The Western Manyavar claimed that Wealth the Pauper was the richest of men, his altruism purest of the gods. He came from a foreign land, a land destroyed by Legion long ago, and he came to protect what he saw as an innocent culture, devoid of the rampant greed and lust spreading across the world. His rune is called Wealth for lack of a better term. It spews forth a wellspring of ideas, tapping into the collective knowledge of all who came before. Early Skiaren were wary of the rune, but modern Vendel are not, and it has rapidly become their most popular lord. When a sorcerer learns the rune, he must choose between a focus on money or on wisdom. Once made, the choice cannot be changed. The money effect allows the user to make a skill check to double any money he receives by any means that is not regular income while the rune is active. The wisdom effect allows the user to make a skill check to tap into hereditary memory, asking the GM a question relevant to his situation. The answer occurs as a flashback into the life of a previous Skiaren devoted to wealth, which is pertinent to the current situation somehow. The relevance is left to the player to interpret. The Rune of Mountain. The 12th rune is one of heroic sacrifice but also absence of suffering. Bearers of this rune ignore crippling wounds, for it takes away suffering and pain and frees the mind. Mountain was a sympathetic healer who, in the final hours of the war's days, took on the wounds of the warrior Krieg, who he fell before Legion, sacrificing his own life to save Krieg's. Krieg, however, defeated the bargainer who gave the gods their power and went into its home to the Great Tarn Mountain to bring him back, and this rune saved his life. Mountain, when invoked or inscribed, allows the user to ignore the effects of one dramatic wound already suffered, both for purposes of penalties and unconsciousness. Those who become Mountain can suffer an additional dramatic wound before failing unconscious and may ignore all penalties from one dramatic wound chosen when the wound is inflicted. Once the wound heals, another can be chosen. The Rune of Harvest. The 30th rune is the time of plenty. There is no famine during the harvest, and the hunger of winter to come is forgotten. However, it is also the lesson that nothing can be gained without work and dedication. The perseverance reaps the greatest reward. Harvest was the only one of the gods left behind in the war's days. He tended the fields and farms during Legion's onslaught, and he rallied the common folk to do the same. His long struggle is remembered over the first meal of each year's harvest, even among those who despise the traditions of lairdom. When invoked or inscribed, harvest allows the bearer to, before each story arc, voluntarily lower a nag by one. This rank of nags is stored away by the story, and when the story ends, the nags returns along with 2 experience points that can only be spent to raise the nag's rank. Those who become harvest do not need to make a skill check to use the power each story. The Rune of Unbound. The 14th rune opens the way. Those that constrain it are defeated. Shackles, ropes, and bindings cannot hold it. Unbound was the first to show this power and the only person to ever escape the great keep of Kriegsfang, where even Legion was said to have been bound. When invoked or inscribed, Unbound causes bindings and shackles to fall off the user when activated. Becoming Unbound allows this power to be used at will. The Rune of Warrior. Warrior is victory in battle, causing arrows to find their mark and access to thirst for blood. This rune is much prized, though many also remember the Great War when Warrior the Inhuman ravaged the coast with an army of branded followers as proof of its ultimate corruption of the flesh. Warrior adds 1 die to all attack rolls. The Rune of Intensity. Intensity is diametrically opposed to calm. Legend says the two married each other before the war's days and were driven apart by their differences once they got their runes. Intensity is all that is violent, aggressive, and forthright. She is a terror on the open sea, a savage wind that stings the eyes. Those who learn intensity must choose when they learn it between weather and emotional effects. Once chosen, this choice cannot be changed. As a weather effect, intensity worsens the present weather conditions, turning drizzles to downpours or snowstorms to blizzards. This cannot change type of weather condition, however. As an emotional effect, intensity adds 2 dice when trying to incite wrath or promote aggressive emotions. The Rune of Anger. Anger is the bitter gale. Anger fills the sky, uncontrollable to most and unquestionable to all. Anger embodied this fury. She was a beauty that none could possess, control, or even hold the attention of for long. She is still today the most emulated of all the gods. Anger adds 2 dice to all brawn rolls. The Rune of Gloom. Gloom is the sullen shower, draining all life around it and casting everything in shades of grey. He leeches courage and reminds others of their losses. He was the embodiment of malaise, a nihilistic critic who was sure the Western Manaver would lose until several moments after they won. He has been mostly forgotten, for people have far better things to do than sulk. Gloom adds 2 dice to all attempts to cause depression or fear in others. The Rune of Ruin. The 90th rune is that of disruption and destructive nature. Ruin is unexpected and brutal, thrusting all it touches into a desperate struggle for survival. Ruin embodied this destruction, plagued by terrible luck, worse than any other man who survived childbirth. He fled his homeland after the war's days, and nearly all images of him have been burned in the hopes that he will never return. Ruin allows the user to add the rank in Ruin to the difficulty level of their target's next action. The rune's power ends immediately after. You know, as a rune to become, that would be a really nasty one. The Rune of Journey. Journey is swift, calling to all those who seek to travel. It is the path that matters, not the goal, and every experience on the way is important. Those who follow Journey hate to see a journey end, though they are prepared and careful in their travel. Journey is a common name now among the Western Maneuver, and the power of the rune has been passed down easily through the centuries as the bearers prepare for the journey into death. Journey adds 2 dice to any perception checks. The Rune of Gateway. The 21st rune is the gateway, bringing visions to the water. This rune can spy on foes and learn their plans, and the only defense is mystery. The Vandal love those who have learned the gateway rune, for its powers has great value, especially to the guilds. Gateway was an aging artist who had gone blind trying to paint the sun. He received a divine inspiration and began to create art based on the gods. During the war's days, he learned his visions were actually happening as he observed them, and from then on his art weighed on him heavily until he joined the pantheon he had once aided. Gateway allows the user to see visions of other places, though the mystery rune blocks all visions within 50 feet of itself, showing only a cloudy haze. The sorcerer must close his eyes and cannot speak during a vision. Invoking the rune allows the user to view events in a place he is familiar with for 1 round plus 1 round per race. Inscribing it allows the user to watch events in a place he has seen before for 1 round plus 1 round per race, but the object inscribed must have a reflective surface of some kind, in which the vision appears. Those who became Gateway may call up visions of anywhere in the world they have been to and can maintain them for 1 round plus 1 round per race. This can be done only once per day. The Rune of Passion. Passion is the run of passion and of day. Clouds part, rains and the sky clears. Fog is dispelled by this rune as well. Between this rune and hatred, any journey can be made pleasant. Passion was a fiery man with a sharp-edged temper. Passion can increase the temperature of a weather effect, which may induce heat waves, drought, or any heat-based effects. The Rune of Hatred. Hatred is the rune of hatred and night. It brings the clouds together, cooling the air. Hatred was a brooding angel of a woman, and her billowing black form skirts the moonlit clouds on clear nights even today. Those who felt her acid kiss linger still above the northern Tarn mountain. Hatred can decrease temperature as a weather effect, which may cause freezing nights, snow, or other cold-based effects. Rune of Fury. The final rune is both Fury and Lightning. The rumbling in the sky foretells the doom of enemies. Fury fought alongside Stirk and Krieg in the war days, hurling lightning bolts down at his foes. When Krieg went mad in battle, it was Fury who slew him, but only after Krieg strangles Sturk in his madness. Fury allows the user to hurl a lightning bolt from his hands, targeted as a normal missile attack with range of 25 times mastery degree. Value for both attacks and damage is mastery degree plus Fury Knack, keeping mastery degree. Next time, possibly the entire rest of the sorceries. As we just went through, we were able to see that the magic system of the runes is very much focused on the mechanical elements of everything that it touches, because as we could see, it mostly focus on giving the mechanical effects of raising or decreasing the values of different attributes, difficulty levels, and such, which on one hand makes it for a rather dry system of magic, because it doesn't really create that much interest in a visual sense, except for the runes that allow for control of the weather, which to me definitely seem as the clear standouts of the whole collection, and I would assume that most of the players would probably go with them as at least something they would start with, instead of something that could, I don't know, maybe just add additional die of damage. But at least that is my point of view. Another chapter. Go ahead then, kill me and seal your fate. First, let's mention the nations without sorcery. Castile has none, and not even a consolation prize, because they get a really cool fencing style. Eisen has Dracheneisen instead. A half-blood noble gets a little of the armor, and a full-blood gets much more. The reason this rocks is that the armor reduced incoming damage and can make you harder to hit, even against bullets, because the dragon's iron is just that damn good. Montaigne, on the other hand, has Porte, doorway magic. Porte involves ripping bleeding holes in reality and pulling things through them. And the word bleeding is important because Porte is also blood magic. To do it, you will need to bleed. The Montaigne referred to the place that is not a place between doorways as the walkway, and none knows what might live there. It's not safe to linger there, and it is absolutely never a good idea to open your eyes while in the walkway. Don't do it. Ever, just don't. An apprentice of Porte can open doorway the size of a human fist, and is also taught how to blood an object, marking it with his own blood. They are then taught how to open a doorway to the blooded object and pull it through. An adept can open doorway big enough to walk through, and so can not just pull blooded objects to him, but travel to them, as well as pulling through objects the size of a man, though they have to be able to leave the thing to get them through the doorway. A master can open a doorway large enough for multiple people, and can finally allow others to travel the walkway with him up to a number of people equal to their resolve. They must hold on to the sorcerer or someone holding the sorcerer. Those who lose the grip are lost forever to the maelstrom of the walkway. Don't do that. Porte has limits though. Traveling the walkway causes portal sickness, like seasickness, except you never get used to it. Nausea and dizziness are common. When you walk through a doorway, you roll a die and subtract your resolve. That's how many turns you are sick after, and that causes -2 dice to all actions. People who don't have Porte that you pull through with you don't subtract the resolve. Pulling things through doorway doesn't actually open a physical connection, it's just a magic hole you stick your hand through and pull an item out of. A pin thrown into the sea that you pull through will be wet, but no water will come through the doorway. If your travel to a blooded object is blocked, say it's buried underground or left inside a jewelry box you can't fit into, you will find yourself unable to exit the walkway and forced to walk to another blooded object. You can still pull the object out though without a problem, and of course you absolutely must have a blooded object as an anchor for where you are walking to, and can only pull blooded objects out of your magic doors. The powers of Porte as follows. Attunement, the power to sense generally where blooded objects are in relation to you. This starts out working in a 10 feet radius, but at rank 5 operates out up to 10 miles. Blooding, of course, the power to ritually mark an object with your blood and link it to you with magic. Apprentice can have 3 blooded objects at once, Adept 6 and Master 9. You can drop a link at any time, but must then re-blood the object to re-establish it. Bring, the power to reach through a hole in reality and pull a blooded object to you. Pocket, the ability to claim part of the walkway as your own and store things there. They can be alive, living things just can't enter your pocket hole. And you can only store 10 pounds per rank of the pocket knack. If you go over that, your pocket bursts and you lose everything in it forever. There is a small chance of any object in your pocket vanishing, no one knows why, by people that think someone's learned how to steal them. So don't leave valuable, one-of-a-kind things there long. And lastly, anything in your pocket must be able to hold its shape. No liquid without being in a container, or it will just fall back out of the pocket. And of course there is walk, the power to open a doorway big enough to pass through and at master levels big enough to bring people with you. This can cross vast distances extremely quickly. So in a quick summary, Porte is probably best described as a power that lets us mark different objects and then pull them by great distances, or open portals through which we can reach those. So it is probably a very nice way to move between places, and also a way to don't really need to bring anything that could be too big or too heavy or too remarkable into a dangerous situation. So all in all, I would say it's pretty nifty. In Usura, the magic of Pieriem is practiced. It's not really sorcery according to the Usurans. They claim it is a holy act granted them by Matushka, the power to take on animal shapes. These are reverent powers, not to be used lightly, and passes from mother to child. All Pieriem sorcerers learn first how to change into a specific animal, the first to offer up its spirit skin, and then how to talk to other humans. They can change back until they learn that or talk to animals. Acquiring new shapes is a matter of finding an animal and bargaining with it for permission to use its spirit skin. The animal who does that in return will live as long as the sorcerer. If killed by others means an age, the sorcerer must care for the beasts young until they are strong enough to take care of themselves, but does not lose the power to become the animal. An apprentice of Pieriem learns the shape of the beast, the power to turn his entire body into an animal, gaining all the powers of that animal. He can speak to other animals while transformed and to other Pieriem users, but not to other humans. Transformation costs a drama die to attempt, and then you can make skill roll. If you fail, yeah, the dice wasted. If you fail by a large amount, you are trapped in your current form until the next zone. Turning back to a human works the same way, including the chance to be trapped by Costo Drama dice. Each animal, including human, is its own knack. You can always speak to any animal native to Usura, and can roll to speak to any other animal, but it gets harder the further from Usura and more domesticated the animal. An adept learns the heart of the beast, gaining the power of partial transformation. By shifting only a part of the body, he can call on one of the animal's abilities, say by growing down around his eyes and a slightly hooked nose to use an owl's night vision. You can't use two powers that interfere with each other or two that would affect the same part of the body. You can only use one power per animal, so if you have owl vision up, you will need another burn form to take wings from if you also want wings. You use your Mennak to turn all your powers off and again can be trapped in your current form until the next dawn if you fail badly enough. The masters learn the soul of the beast. Form is unimportant, spirit is all. They learn the art of spirit conjuration, calling on the powers of the animal forms without needing to transform their body. They can call as many powers that a single animal as they desire, but can only use one animal's power at a time. There is no need to turn back since no transformation happens, however all animals' powers wear off at the next dawn or can be cancelled early. There is a list of animal forms and associated powers. There's also a list of powers excellent for use in building an animal that isn't already there. The Usura book has more animal forms listed and a few new animal powers. There's stuff like claw attacks, armor due to speed, toughness, or whatever, borrowing stat changes, though when a stat goes up, another often goes down, and the two are usually considered a single power when that happens, as are things like speed or no grasping limbs. It's a pretty flexible system though, and while powerful animals can be hard to turn into, they've got some great abilities. The magic of Vodache now is Sorte, Fate Magic. It is a very rare sorcery found exclusively in Vodache women, the Fate Witches. Those who have the power can see the great web of fate and how it connects to all things. They learn to watch its strands, and the Grand Witches, the Nonna, even learn how to create and destroy them. The young witches learn how to see the strands using a sword deck, reading fate via the cards. They learned what the card means. The arcana are strengths and weaknesses in person, and the suits are type of strengths or connections. A fate witch can't manipulate arcana, but can manipulate the others. Coins, the connections of business and trade; cups, the connections of passion and emotions; swords, the connection of conflict; and staves, the connection of status, respect, and authority. Each suit and the arcana are the five knacks of Sorte. The skill is in manipulating that type of faith, or in arcana case, of being able to read it. The witches can automatically see the most powerful strand a person has, the first most important for an apprentice, the two most important for an adept, and three most important for a master. They can also look closer to see the specific strands between two people. When a witch can see a strand, she knows what suit it has, where its ends are. If both ends are in sight, she can see that, but even if not, she knows what direction to end is currently in, how strong it is from 1 to 10, and whether it has a court card. Court cards mean the strand can be manipulated. The square because it is too new and unstable, the knight because it is too powerful, the queen because it is splitting and creating a new strand, and the king because it's too old and stable. They also learn if the strand is being twisted or frayed, and can tell if a strand has been cut. But a cut strand can't be altered unless you can make new strands. The Vodache woman may lay blessing and curses. It is said they can do it just by meeting your eyes, but that is not true. It takes a bit more than that, and it's pretty risky. To do it, they must look into the eyes of a person, say his name 3 times, and then kiss him. That lays the blessing or the curse. And only the witch knows what she laid. She then rolls her appropriate neck, cups to give a romantic blessing, say, or swords for a curse on conflicts. For every 15 points rolled, the target gets either a blessing or curse die. However, the witch gets a curse die for every 10 points rolled. Blessing dice are added to the results of all appropriate rolls. However, they can't explode, and if they ever roll a 1, they go away. They remain until then. Curse dice are rolled the same way, but rather than adding to the results, they subtract. They go away if they ever roll a 10. A witch can also tag on strands she can see. This lets her increase or decrease its strength. The effect of this aren't sudden or spectacular, but it causes something to change a relationship. Perhaps when she awakened a passion strand, there will be a lover's quarrel that night. If she strengthens it, perhaps luck will bring them closer together after the man's defeats the woman's honor. It's subtle but can be very powerful, at least until it wears off. The change lingers for 1 day per rank in the appropriate knack, and if you are lucky, circumstances might make it permanent. Perhaps, after all, you ruined the relationship by causing the man to be sent off to war and making it long distance. Just because the magic wears off won't stop them from being true. However, the GM controls how the magic manifests, not you. You can tag a strand that has a cord card. Stretching stands is much simpler. If you can see a strand, you can stretch it, and while you are doing so, it adds or subtracts dice from appropriate pools. So if you witness a sword fight and can see the sword strand between the duelists, you can weaken or strengthen one of the fighters by stretching the strand. It's not easy, but very potent. You can stretch a strand with a cord card. The greatest witches can create and destroy strands. Destroying is the easier of the two. It's like tearing through a web with each part important to maintaining the structure. However, you can destroy a strand with a cord card. If you succeed the rather hard roll to destroy a strand, you would dramatically destroy the relationship. Lifelong friends feel nothing for each other, perhaps a tragic accident tears a father and son apart, and they never see each other again. It's not something you control, but it is very dramatic. However, you get caught up in the effect. You become connected to both people the strand you had connected, even if you have only seen them before and never spoke to them. This is a great risk, for such connections can be tracked by other witches and used to weaken you, as you well know. Creating strands is the hardest thing a witch can do. It is less risky to the witch, but very hard. Plus, the strand must be watched carefully to ensure the relationships go the way you want, that the political relationship between two leaders creates an agreement, not a war. That you don't start a romantic relationship with a man who just isn't what you want. You can, after all, end up accidentally turning him into a stalker if you aren't careful. Lastly, the Arcana. A Fate Witch can watch a person and see if they have a virtue or hubris. They can even tell what it is based on what sort of card they see and if it's inverted or not. However, there's also always a risk when using sort. Famously, Mad Queen Marietta controlled the fates of an entire village, and over the years her skin developed scars as if struck with a lash. That is because she was a fate lash. It eventually drove her insane and she killed her husband and children. Wherever a die of a sorter roll explodes more than twice, so whenever a single die goes over 20, you suffer a fate lash. Since you can choose to not have a die explode, it's all down to your overreaching, because while you get lashed, the explosion means the spell still worked and got lots of numbers. It's a risk that might be worth it. When you get a Fate Lash, you lose 3 drama dice. If you don't have 3 to lose, you take a dramatic wound for every roll you don't have. The scare remains for 3 months but causes no other problems. Um, yes, so all in all, we now saw a type of magic that can change people into different animals, which in one way I would say probably creates a whole possible source of different legends and stories about different beast folk, werewolves, cat people, stuff like that, which is probably something that can be explored in a very nice way. And we also have the fate magic, which very clearly is meant to be used with a tarot deck, which is also something that is interesting and probably something that would be very popular in a LARP setting, because why not? The last part of the book brings us to the end of the story. Clarice and Villanova are at a party for King Sandoval's birthday when Archibald arrives. Clarice has hired him to fight her lover, Villanova, but why? We don't know. The two fight, but Villanova's Ambrosia fencing is too much for Archibald, he can't beat the man. While Villanova gloats, however, Archibald notices Lucia, who is doing something. She tags on the strands, stretching them, and when Villanova moves in for the killing blow, he misses. Villanova turns, cursing at her, but that gives Archibald the opening he needs. He knocks the sword from the villain's hand and has him at his mercy. At this point, Helena retrieves the stolen object from Villanova. A certain egg containing a poison virulent enough to kill everyone in the room. Archibald is about to kill Villanova when the man reveals that he too is a swordsman and no swordsman may take commission on another. Archibald could kill him, but only by accepting death himself at the hands of the guild. He spares Villanova, who swears vengeance of Lucia for costing him victory. Lucia nearly faints, but Archibald catches her. From here we have moved into a player advice section, which is honestly one of the best I've ever read. It talks about the stats, about what stats do, but more importantly about player expectations and what we would call today the social contract. It talks about how players should make characters as a group so they can hook into each other's backgrounds and cover each other's weaknesses, about sitting down and forming a charter for the PC group so they can have rules they can fall back on in times of disagreement, a novel idea, if not one I usually use. And it takes about how being dick, because it's my character, is unacceptable behavior and should not be done. This is not a game designed for inter-party conflict beyond argument and debate. PvP combat just isn't what it's good at. And it's open about it. There's also advice about flexibility. Say you took Nemesis as a background, but your Nemesis hasn't showed up, and you really hate this NPC the GM has just introduced. You can ask him if the guy can be your Nemesis instead, and usually he will say yes. Sometimes the GM will introduce NPCs, and the game suggests that he let players decide who they are, and sometimes the example is this. Do I recognize him? Sure. Who is he? Well, he looks like my fencing instructor. What's he doing so far from home and dressed so shabbily? Sure, we'll go with that. The GM can veto if you has other plans, of course. Likewise, you can improvise chandeliers into existence in fight scenes if you need something to swing on, and the GM is expected to tell you if your PC is doing something stupid that he would know not to do. A sorcerer opening his eyes in the walkway, say, or a fencer standing somewhere that would put him at a terrible risk in battle. Basically, it's a game that suggests players be courteous to each other and not be dicks. Good advice. It also talks about playing with an accent, and the appendix has example accent, including pirate. Next time, the GM's guide. And even though we have not really reached even the 1 hour mark of the stream, I would say it would be a nice bookmark to finish the stream for today, as uh, because what I think I said in the beginning, the whole post goes through all of the books that were made for the first edition of 7th Sea. So for just ease of future access to those stream, I would say that I wouldn't really want to um, make those stream really confusing by reading half of one book then half of another book in one, making it harder for other people to access them, and that way it will be also easier to put into descriptions that those streams go into this book, these streams go into another book, etc. It can also probably mean in a further run that maybe we will even go into shorter streams, depending on how long different posts will be. But we will see about that. It can also just simply mean that I will make more than one stream in a day. But also to summarize the whole book, so the player's guide, we basically know the idea for the whole setting, which is 17th century Europe with a magical twist of some kind, and different types of magic. I would say that in hindsight of 2024, it is something that is very easy to understand by the way of not really being complicated, because, well, you have the French people and the French people are this, you have the Spanish people are this, the British people are this, and it goes over and over and over different stereotypes. And I would say this is something that is very welcoming for new players, because operating on stereotypes can work as an introduction to things, because we can all understand stereotypes, but at the same time, uh, it can also lead to people thinking in a very black and white way. So, going back to the examples, the French person always being the one who will backstab everyone else, when, well, this is obviously a stereotype in the world itself, but no one ever should feel like a French person cannot be someone who is incredibly savage. It is all it is all about the way we present those characters and those cultures. Uh, and the book is just giving us the broad strokes of everything that we can use. Uh, and as it also goes for magic, it is. Oh no, I would say about both the setting and the magic. I can see a lot of possible inspirations for different types of stories. Like, every bit of magic can, in a way, even create a story. Be it the runes, be it the transformation into animals, be it the fate magic, be it the teleportation or whatever. The fact that just from reading about those ideas I can get inspired for different stories or different story hooks, I would say it shows that the ideas in the book are created well enough to inspire people to do cool stuff. So far I am probably uh, rather positive about the whole game. We will see how it go down further and if the creator of this write-up maybe is just biased in a certain way. But yes, for today I will thank you for listening, and I invite you to obviously comment about the books you would like to read, about your experience with the game if you have some, or even just whatever. It's always just nice to be able to see what people care for in role playing games, or if you even have a feedback to the stream, because it is important to improve the quality over time by learning those different things. But yes, without anything further, that was all for today. Goodbye.